WBO middleweight world champion Billy Joe Saunders has once again reiterated his apparent desire to face Gennady Golovkin in a big unification clash. There's been a lot of talk over the past few months that Billy Joe Saunders may actually be fighting Triple G in Golovkin's home country of Kazakhstan sometime this year. I'm going to quote Billy Joe Saunders directly. He says, "Golovkin is strong, but he can be outfoxed. A boxer always beats a puncher, and he has never faced anyone as awkward or tricky as me. I've seen faults and flaws in him that I know I could take advantage of. I want to see how good I really am. In my own head, I know I am capable of beating him. I am in my prime and ready to take on the best. I want to give the fans what they want to see. He wants the WBO belt, and I have it. I am willing to put it on the line." So those are the words of Billy Joe Saunders. Now, following Daniel Jacobs' performance against Golovkin on the weekend, Billy Joe Saunders has probably taken a lot of confidence from it. And one of the reasons being that Danny Jacobs was able to outmaneuver and outbox Gennady Golovkin for long stretches during the fight out of a southpaw stance. And as we know, Billy Joe Saunders himself is a southpaw. I felt that Danny Jacobs actually had more success as a southpaw against Golovkin than he did in his natural orthodox stance. And I'm sure that would have been noted by Billy Joe Saunders as well. However, I personally don't think Billy Joe Saunders can do as well against Golovkin as Danny Jacobs did. Part of the reason why Danny Jacobs was able to be so successful was because of the fact that he is 6'1" tall. He does have a long reach, longer than Billy Joe's reach, and he is stepping into the ring at 180 pounds, and he's athletic and fast with it, both with his hands and his feet. Billy Joe's nowhere near as big as Danny Jacobs, nowhere near as strong, don't have the height, don't have the reach. I don't think he's as fast as Danny Jacobs. He's not the athlete Jacobs is. He is a southpaw, and he's probably a bit slicker than Jacobs, actually, in my view at least. Although his last fight didn't show that. But generally, I would say he's a bit slicker than Jacobs. But other than that, I think Jacobs had all the advantages over Billy Joe in terms of as an opponent for Triple G. So I would expect Triple G to look far more convincing against a Billy Joe Saunders than he looked against Danny Jacobs. And again, I don't underplay how much Danny Jacobs' size contributed to how well he did in the ring against Triple G. A 180-pound man who's in tremendous condition, who's fast, who's athletic, who's got height and reach and all that kind of stuff, against Triple G, who is not the biggest middleweight in the world. He's not a small middleweight, let's not get it twisted. Triple G comes in the ring 170 pounds or over for most of his middleweight fights. So that's not a small middleweight. A small middleweight would be somebody who maybe only weighs a few pounds over the middleweight limit, or perhaps fights kind of on the middleweight limit. Somebody who you would say, you know what, this guy could easily make 154. Triple G, not exactly a small middleweight, but certainly not the biggest middleweight out there by a long stretch. I've been saying for a long time that I think Canelo Alvarez is actually bigger than Triple G, which makes a nonsense of Canelo and Golden Boy's claim that he's not yet big enough to fight at a full 160 pounds. I mean, now he's fighting Chavez Jr. at over 160 pounds. So, Canelo and Golden Boy have kind of made themselves look foolish time and time again with this whole "I'm not a real middleweight" mantra that they keep spouting out. But that's a subject for a different video. As for this video, Billy Joe saying that he's ready for Golovkin, he sees flaws. How do you see Billy Joe doing against Triple G if that fight takes place? Do you think he can go one better than Danny Jacobs? Or do you, like me, think that he just doesn't have the size or the athleticism that Jacobs had, and therefore he'll probably get beaten decisively, probably stopped by Triple G? Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think that Triple G having all the problems that he had against Jacobs was as much to do with him deteriorating as it was facing an opponent who was more gifted and had more ability and more size than he'd faced in the past. Perhaps you think it's, maybe 50-50, a bit of both. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, whatever the case may be. All right, it's Hatman, I'm out.